The City of Westminster is making waves with its latest decision to ban trailered boats at Standley Lake starting this summer. They say it's a proactive approach to avoid what they call a potential infestation of zebra and quagga mussels, invasive species not native to Colorado. Neither has actually been found in the water.
And people are very upset, very emotional, very upset about it.
Boaters like Bill Beislein, who also owns a boat dealership in Denver, call the decision a knee-jerk reaction.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, they're absolutely, Mark, they're just acting out of fear.
We're here tonight to listen to you.
So the city had an informational meeting Tuesday night to tell boaters they have their reasons. They say a recent review showed the pressure washers used to decontaminate boats aren't the best way to keep those mussels away.
There's a specific reason why it was trailered boats, because both of those components, the trailer and the boat, pose a very specific risk as it relates to the invasive species.
City leaders like Max Kirschbaum say there's no time frame when Westminster might lift the ban, but they hope to work with the boating community who uses Standley Lake to find a solution.
So it really leaves these people high and dry, so to speak.
Which is something Bill says didn't happen before the city made their decision.
We don't have any mussels, so why are we making a reaction out of fear?
Now, the boaters have their own solution. It's called One Boat, One Lake. Any boats used at Standley Lake would have to stay there through the season. They could only leave to get gassed up or washed. Boaters say they wouldn't risk bringing anything back from another body of water. The city says something just needed to happen now, Kyle, because once one of those mussels moves in, it's pretty much impossible to eradicate them.
Any idea if the city is seriously considering their marine monogamy idea there?
Well, they say they're going to consider that solution as well as any other possible solution that may roll into them. The problem, though, Kyle, is there's really no set deadline on how long they need to consider all of this before making any solution.
For the time being, they go abstinence only. All right, Jordan, thank you.